The Lone Wanderer. Marcus Drake wiped the sweat from his brow as he trudged across the crimson sands of Theta 7, a frontier planet at the edge of known space. The twin suns beat down mercilessly, turning the desert into a furnace that tested even the most experienced travelers. His weathered boots left deep impressions in the sand, only to be erased moments later by the hot wind that never seemed to stop blowing. He had been walking for 3 days straight, surviving on minimal rations and the last drops of water in his canteen. His dark hair was matted with dust, and his tanned skin showed the marks of countless worlds and battles. The tactical vest he wore had seen better days, its pockets now empty except for a few energy bars and a worn photograph he kept close to his heart. Marcus was running from nothing and toward nothing, or so he told himself. After serving 10 years in the Terran Defense Corps, he had walked away from military life with nothing but his skills and the haunting memories of missions gone wrong. He had lost his entire unit on Europa during what was supposed to be a routine patrol. The guilt of being the sole survivor had driven him to the outer colonies, where questions were few and opportunities for redemption were scarce. The settlement of New Hope appeared on the horizon like a mirage. At first, Marcus thought his eyes were playing tricks on him, but as he climbed the final dune, he saw it clearly. A collection of prefabricated structures and makeshift buildings clustered around a central water recycler. It wasn't much, but it was civilization. An isolated home. As Marcus entered the outskirts of the settlement, he noticed most buildings were abandoned or barely functional. The colony had clearly seen better days. Rust covered the metal structures, and sand had invaded every corner. A few inhabitants moved between buildings, eyeing him with the suspicion common to frontier communities. One dwelling caught his attention. Set apart from the others, about a quarter-mile from the main cluster, stood a well-maintained structure with reinforced walls and a small garden that somehow thrived despite the harsh environment. Solar panels covered the roof, and the windows were fitted with protective shutters. Something drew Marcus toward that isolated home. Perhaps it was the sign of life and care in this dying settlement, or perhaps it was simply that his exhausted body refused to carry him any further. Either way, his feet carried him to the front door. Before he could knock, the door slid open with a pneumatic hiss. Marcus found himself staring down the barrel of an advanced plasma rifle, its charging coils humming with deadly energy. Behind the weapon stood a woman unlike anyone he had ever seen. She was tall, nearly matching his 6-foot frame, with smooth violet skin that seemed to shimmer in the sunlight. Her eyes were the color of liquid silver, almond-shaped and piercing. Long black hair fell past her shoulders in thick waves, and her athletic build was evident beneath the practical black bodysuit she wore. She was alien, yet undeniably beautiful in a way that made Marcus momentarily forget the weapon pointed at his chest. "State your business, human," she said, her voice carrying a melodic quality despite its harsh tone. "You have 10 seconds before I decide you're a threat." Marcus slowly raised his hands, showing they were empty. "I'm just looking for work," he said calmly, meeting her silver eyes without flinching. "I'm a skilled mechanic, good with security systems, and I can handle myself in a fight if needed. I'll work for food and shelter, nothing more." The alien woman studied him intently, her eyes scanning him from head to toe. Marcus felt as if she could see through his skin to the soldier beneath. After a long moment that felt like an eternity, her expression shifted from hostility to calculation. "I don't need a worker," she said, lowering her weapon slightly. "I need a father." The widow's proposition. Marcus blinked, certain he had misheard. "I'm sorry, what?" "You heard correctly, human." The woman stepped aside, gesturing for him to enter. "My name is Zara Talonis. My husband died 6 months ago, and my son needs what I cannot give him. He needs a father figure, someone who can teach him to be strong, to survive, and eventually, to seek justice." Marcus hesitated at the threshold. Every instinct told him this was complicated, potentially dangerous. But something in Zara's silver eyes spoke of genuine desperation beneath the warrior's facade. "I think you'd better explain," he said, stepping inside. The interior was sparse but immaculately organized. Military precision, Marcus noted immediately. The main room served as living space, kitchen, and training area. Weapons were mounted on the walls in easy reach, but secured with biometric locks. A holographic display showed defensive perimeter readings, and a small alcove held what appeared to be a shrine. "Sit," Zara commanded, pointing to a low table. She kept her rifle close but no longer aimed at him. "Kale," she called out. "Come here." A small figure emerged from a side room. The boy was perhaps 7 or 8 years old by human standards, with the same violet skin as his mother but with eyes that held a deep sadness no child should carry. His black hair was cut short, and he wore a simple gray tunic. He pressed close to his mother's side, studying Marcus with fearful curiosity. "This is my son, Kale," Zara said, her voice softening as she placed a protective hand on the boy's shoulder. "Kale, what is your name, human?" "Marcus Drake," he replied, offering the boy a gentle smile. "It's good to meet you, Kale." The boy said nothing, just stared with those haunted silver eyes. Zara gestured for Kale to return to his room, and once they were alone, she poured 2 glasses of a pale blue liquid. "Drink," she said. "It's safe for human consumption. We've had traders here before." Marcus took a cautious sip. The liquid was cool and slightly sweet, refreshing after days in the desert. "Tell me about your husband." Zara's expression hardened. Varen Talonis was a commander in the Colonial Defense Fleet. 6 months ago, raiders attacked this settlement. The Cross Raiders, mercenaries who pillage frontier colonies. They kill the men, take the women and children as slaves or worse. She moved to the shrine alcove, touching a holographic image that sprang to life. A tall, powerful-looking alien male appeared, also violet-skinned with kind silver eyes. He wore a military uniform covered in commendations. Varen led the defense. He saved 37 lives that day, including Kale and me. But the raiders, they captured him. Their leader, a brutal creature named Score, executed him publicly as a message. They broadcast it on all frequencies so we would know what happens to those who resist. Marcus felt a familiar anger rising in his chest. He had seen too much senseless violence in his life. "I'm sorry for your loss." "Sorry doesn't help my son," Zara said sharply, turning back to him. "Kale hasn't spoken more than a few words since his father died. He has nightmares every night. He needs to learn to be strong, to defend himself, to become the warrior his father wanted him to be." "Why a human?" Marcus asked. "Surely there are others of your kind who could teach him." Zara's laugh was bitter. "My people, the Althorians, are merchants and diplomats. We hire others to fight our battles. Varen was the exception, having trained with off-world military forces. As for other humans..." She gestured toward the dying settlement outside. "Most here are criminals, cowards, or incompetents. You're the first capable warrior to pass through in months. What makes you think I'm capable?" "The way you move. The scars I can see on your hands and arms. The fact that you crossed the Crimson Desert alone and survived. And..." She stepped closer, studying his face. "The look in your eyes. You're running from something, but you're not broken. Not yet." "The trial." Marcus stood, finishing his drink. "I appreciate the offer, but I'm not father material. I'm not even sure I'm people material anymore." "I'm not asking you to love us," Zara said, moving with surprising speed to block the door. "I'm asking you to train my son. Teach him human survival techniques. Your species is known throughout the galaxy for your adaptability, your refusal to surrender, your ability to thrive in impossible conditions. These are lessons Kale needs. And what do I get in return? Shelter. Food. Purpose." Zara's silver eyes locked with his. "And a chance to be something other than a ghost wandering the frontier." Her words struck deeper than Marcus wanted to admit. You don't know anything about me. I could be dangerous. Then prove you're not. In one fluid motion, Zara attacked. Marcus barely had time to react, blocking her strike and pivoting away. She was fast, incredibly fast, and trained in multiple combat styles. She came at him again, forcing him to dodge between furniture and deflect blows that would have incapacitated most humans. But Marcus was no ordinary human. 10 years of military training and countless battles had honed his reflexes to razor sharpness. He read her patterns, anticipated her moves, and finally managed to catch her wrist mid-strike, using her momentum to spin her around and pin her arm behind her back. They both breathed heavily, standing frozen in that position for several heartbeats. Marcus became acutely aware of how close they were, of the warmth of her body, of the faint scent of something like cinnamon emanating from her skin. Acceptable, Zara said, a hint of respect in her voice. You can fight. But can you teach? Marcus released her and stepped back. I've trained recruits before. But Zara, I need you to understand something. I lost people under my command. Good people. I'm not sure I should be responsible for anyone else's life. We all carry ghosts, Zara replied, straightening her bodysuit. The question is whether we let them control us or whether we honor them by continuing to live. From the doorway to his room, Cale watched silently. Marcus caught the boy's eye and saw something there, a desperate hope that made his chest tighten. 1 month, Marcus heard himself say. I'll stay for 1 month. Train the boy, teach him what I can. After that, I move on. Zara's expression softened almost imperceptibly. 1 month, she agreed. We'll see if that's enough. First lessons. As the twin suns began to set, painting the desert in shades of purple and gold, Marcus found himself in the small spare room Zara had prepared for him. It was simple, a sleeping mat, a small storage unit, and a window that looked out over the endless dunes. He set down his pack, which contained everything he owned in the universe. From the main room, he heard Zara speaking softly to Cale, explaining that Marcus would be staying to help them. The boy's response was too quiet to hear, but there was no protest. Marcus pulled out the worn photograph he carried everywhere. 5 faces smiled back at him, his unit, his friends, all dead because of a decision he had made. He had been running from their memory for 2 years now, never staying anywhere long enough to form attachments, to risk caring about someone again. Now he had agreed to train a traumatized alien child for a widow seeking vengeance. It was possibly the worst decision he had made since Europa. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. Dinner, Zara called through the door. The meal was simple but nutritious, some kind of grain dish with vegetables that looked alien but tasted surprisingly pleasant. Cale sat across from Marcus, sneaking glances at him between bites. The boy's hands were small, delicate, nothing like a warrior's hands. Tomorrow, Marcus said gently, addressing Cale directly, we'll start training. Nothing too intense at first. Just some basic exercises, some games to build your strength and coordination. Would you like that? Cale looked at his mother, who nodded encouragingly. The boy turned back to Marcus and, for the first time, spoke. His voice was soft, barely above a whisper, but clear. Will you teach me to be strong like my father? The question hung in the air, heavy with expectation and grief. Marcus felt the weight of those innocent silver eyes on him, felt the responsibility settling on his shoulders like the pack he had carried across the desert. I'll teach you to be strong like yourself, Marcus replied. Your father was his own kind of strong. You'll find your own way. I'll just help you discover it. A small smile touched Cale's lips, the first Marcus had seen. It was brief, fragile, but it was there. After dinner, as Marcus lay on his sleeping mat staring at the unfamiliar stars through his window, he wondered what he had gotten himself into. 1 month suddenly seemed both impossibly long and nowhere near enough time. In the main room, he could hear Zara moving about, securing the perimeter, checking weapon systems, performing the nightly rituals of a soldier who knew that safety was always temporary on the frontier. Despite her alien nature, Marcus recognized a kindred spirit, someone else haunted by loss, driven by duty, and desperately trying to protect what little remained of their family. As sleep finally claimed him, Marcus's last thought was that perhaps, just perhaps, this isolated dwelling in the desert might be the place where ghosts could finally rest. For 1 month, at least, he would have a purpose beyond mere survival. He would help a boy learn to be strong and help a widow prepare for whatever justice or vengeance she sought. The desert wind howled outside, covering their small sanctuary with fresh layers of crimson sand, as if trying to hide them from the universe's cruel gaze. And for the first time in 2 years, Marcus Drake slept without dreaming of Europa and the faces of the dead. Tomorrow, the real work would begin. The first rays of Theta 7's twin suns painted the desert in shades of amber and rose as Marcus emerged from his room. He had been awake for an hour already, his military training making sleep beyond dawn nearly impossible. The dwelling was quiet, but he could sense Zara was already up, her presence somehow palpable even through walls. He found her in the training area, moving through what appeared to be a meditation routine. Her movements were fluid and graceful, a dance of controlled power that spoke of years of discipline. She wore a different outfit today, a sleeveless training suit that revealed the lean muscles of her arms and the subtle patterns of bioluminescent markings that traced along her violet skin. "Your people glow," Marcus observed, keeping his voice neutral. Zara completed her form before turning to face him. Althorians develop these markings during times of intense emotion or physical exertion. They're involuntary, a evolutionary remnant from when my ancestors lived in dark caves and used them to communicate. She studied him with those penetrating silver eyes. "Did you sleep?" "Enough," Marcus replied. "Is Kale awake?" "He's been awake since you got up. He's watching you from his room." Zara's expression softened slightly. "He's nervous. He wants to impress you but fears he'll fail." Marcus walked to Kale's door and knocked gently. "Kale. Ready to start your first day of training?" The door slid open slowly, revealing the boy dressed in simple training clothes. His silver eyes were wide with a mixture of fear and excitement. "I'm ready," he whispered. "Good," Marcus said, crouching down to the boy's eye level. "But first, you need to understand something important. Training isn't about being perfect. It's about trying, failing, learning, and trying again. Everyone fails at first. Even your father did when he started. Even I still do sometimes. Can you accept that?" Kale nodded slowly, processing this information. "Then let's begin." The morning session started with basics. Marcus had Kale run simple patterns in the sand outside, teaching him proper breathing techniques and how to pace himself in the heat. The boy struggled initially, his young body not yet adapted to sustained physical effort, but he didn't quit. Every time he stumbled or slowed, he would glance at Marcus, seeking approval or disappointment. "Good," Marcus called out. "Remember, it's not about speed right now. It's about consistency. Keep your breathing steady. In through your nose, out through your mouth." Zara watched from the doorway, her arms crossed but her expression unreadable. Marcus caught her eye several times, and something passed between them, a shared understanding of what they were trying to build here. After an hour, Marcus called for a water break. Kale collapsed in the shade, breathing hard but grinning. "That was harder than I thought," the boy admitted. "Everything worth doing is," Marcus replied, sitting beside him. "But you didn't give up. That's what matters most. Is that what made you strong?" Kale asked, his voice still soft but more confident than before. "Not giving up." Marcus considered the question carefully. "Partly. But strength isn't just physical, Kale. Real strength is here," he tapped the boy's chest, "and here." He gently touched Kale's forehead. "Your father knew that. He was strong because he fought for something bigger than himself. He fought for you and your mother. Kale's eyes glistened with unshed tears. I miss him. I know you do. And that's okay. Missing someone doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. Marcus paused, realizing the irony. Well, you know what I mean. It makes you alive, capable of love. That's a strength all its own. The boy leaned against Marcus's shoulder, a gesture of trust that surprised them both. Marcus felt something crack in the walls he had built around his heart, a fissure that let in both pain and warmth. Understanding Zara. As the days progressed into weeks, a routine established itself. Mornings were for physical training, running, basic combat stances, agility exercises. Afternoons were for tactical thinking. Marcus would set up scenarios using rocks and sticks, teaching Kale how to read terrain, identify defensive positions, and think strategically. Evenings were for recovery and learning. Marcus would tell stories of Earth, of humanity's struggles and triumphs, while Kale listened with rapt attention. But the evenings also became something else. After Kale went to bed, Marcus and Zara would sit together, sometimes in comfortable silence, sometimes in deep conversation. They were learning each other, not just as teacher and employer, but as two souls who had survived too much. One evening, 2 weeks into his stay, Zara poured them both glasses of Althorian wine, a deep purple liquid that tasted of berries and starlight. You're good with him, she said, settling onto the cushions beside Marcus. Better than I expected. He's a good kid. Makes it easy. No, Zara shook her head, her black hair catching the lamplight. Most warriors are terrible teachers. They're too impatient, too harsh. You understand that children need to be built up, not broken down. Marcus swirled his wine, watching the colors shift. I learned that the hard way. My first commander in the Terran Defense Corps was a bastard. Broke more recruits than he made. I swore I'd never be like him. Tell me about Europa, Zara said quietly. Marcus's hand tightened on his glass. How did you? You talk in your sleep sometimes. The walls here are thin. Her silver eyes held compassion, not judgment. You don't have to tell me. But sometimes, speaking ghosts aloud makes them less powerful. The wine loosened something in Marcus's chest, something that had been locked tight for 2 years. We were ambushed. My unit, 5 of us. We'd been together for 4 years, knew each other better than family. The mission was supposed to be simple reconnaissance on one of Jupiter's moons. He paused, the memories flooding back with painful clarity. I was the squad leader. I chose the route. I didn't see the trap until it was too late. Insurgents had mined the entire sector. The explosion killed 3 instantly. The other 2, they were wounded badly. I had to choose between staying with them or getting to the extraction point to call for help. You chose to go for help, Zara said, not a question but an understanding. I did. And by the time rescue arrived, they were dead. They died alone, afraid, calling for me. Marcus's voice broke. I survived because I left them behind. Zara was quiet for a long moment, then she did something unexpected. She took his hand in hers. Her touch was cool, her fingers slender but strong. You survived because you made the choice a leader must make. The impossible choice. If you had stayed, all of you would have died. That's what they told me at the inquiry. That's what the psychiatrist said. But knowing something intellectually and feeling it are different things. Yes, Zara agreed. After Varen died, everyone told me I should be proud, that he died a hero's death. But I wasn't proud. I was angry. Angry at him for leaving us, angry at the universe for being so cruel, angry at myself for not being there to fight beside him. Her voice trembled. Sometimes I still wake up furious, ready to scream at the injustice of it all. Marcus turned to look at her fully, seeing past the warrior exterior to the grieving widow beneath. How do you manage? I focus on Kale. On preparing for the day when we can seek justice. And now. She squeezed his hand gently, I focus on the fact that I'm not alone anymore. Their eyes met, and the air between them shifted. Marcus was acutely aware of her proximity, of the way the lamplight played across her violet skin, of the vulnerability she was showing him. It would be so easy to close the distance between them, to seek comfort in each other's arms. But he didn't. Not yet. Some things couldn't be rushed. Thank you, he said instead. For listening. For understanding. Zara smiled, a real smile that transformed her face. Thank you for staying. For giving Kale something I couldn't. The storm arrives. The fourth week of Marcus's stay began with an unusual tension in the air. The desert wind had shifted, carrying with it the metallic scent of an approaching storm. But it wasn't just the weather that had changed, Zara's sensors had picked up unusual activity on the settlement's perimeter. Ships, she said grimly, studying the holographic display. 3 of them, mid-sized cruisers. They're maintaining orbit but have deployed scanning drones. Marcus moved to her side, his military training immediately analyzing the data. Raiders? Possibly. The energy signatures match cross-raider vessels. Her jaw tightened. Score may have returned. Kale emerged from his room, sensing the tension. Mom. What's wrong? Zara forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Nothing, little star. Just checking some readings. Go practice your forms like Marcus taught you. But the boy wasn't fooled. Is it them? The ones who hurt father? The silence was answer enough. Kale's face went pale, his silver eyes wide with remembered fear. Marcus knelt before the boy, placing firm hands on his small shoulders. Kale, listen to me. Remember what we've been training for. This is why. Not for revenge, not yet. But to keep you and your mother safe. Can you be brave for us? The boy nodded, trembling slightly but standing straighter. Good. Now, I want you to go to the safe room your mother showed you. Take your emergency pack. You remember the protocols? Yes, Kale whispered. Then go. And Kale? Marcus waited until the boy met his eyes. Whatever happens, you did nothing wrong. Your father would be proud of how brave you've been. After Kale disappeared into the concealed safe room, Marcus turned to Zara. What's the play? We defend, she said simply, already arming herself with plasma weapons and energy blades. The settlement won't help us, they're too afraid. It's just us. Then let's even the odds. Marcus moved to the weapons locker. You have explosives. Some. What are you thinking? The raiders want easy targets. Let's make ourselves difficult enough that they decide we're not worth the trouble. Marcus began pulling out equipment, his mind already formulating a defensive strategy. We have about 2 hours before they make landfall. That's enough time to set up a perimeter defense. They worked together seamlessly, Marcus's tactical experience complementing Zara's knowledge of the terrain and technology. They planted motion-triggered charges at key approach points, set up overlapping fields of fire, and created fallback positions that would allow them to retreat while maintaining suppression. As they worked, Marcus noticed Zara's bioluminescent markings growing brighter, pulsing with her increased heart rate and adrenaline. You're scared, he observed. Terrified, she admitted. Last time, I had Varen. He was the warrior. I was support. Now you're not alone, Marcus said firmly. I've fought raiders before, Zara. They're bullies. They rely on fear and overwhelming force. Take that away, make them bleed, and they'll retreat. And if they don't? Marcus checked his rifle's charge. Then we make them regret not retreating. The ships landed as the twin suns reached their zenith, touching down about a mile from the dwelling. Through the scope of his rifle, Marcus counted approximately 20 raiders disembarking. They were a mixed group, various species bound by greed rather than loyalty. At their center was a massive reptilian figure easily 8 feet tall, covered in scarred scales and carrying weapons that looked like they could level buildings. "That Score," Zara breathed beside him, her voice tight with barely controlled rage. "The one who killed Varen." Marcus studied the raider leader. Score moved with confidence, clearly expecting no resistance. That arrogance would be his weakness. "Remember the plan," Marcus said. "We engage at distance, use the charges to break their formation, then fall back. Our goal isn't to kill them all, it's to convince them we're too expensive to bother with." "I want him dead," Zara said flatly. "I want Score to pay for what he did." "And he will," Marcus promised. "But not today. Not when Kale is here. We keep your son safe first. Revenge second." Zara struggled with this, her whole body tense, but finally nodded. "You're right. Kale comes first." The raiders approached cautiously at first, clearly expecting the settlement to be as defenseless as before. When they reached the first perimeter marker, Marcus triggered the charges. The explosion threw 3 raiders into the air, their screams lost in the blast. The others scattered, seeking cover, their casual arrogance replaced by confusion. "Fire," Marcus commanded, and together he and Zara opened up with their rifles. Energy bolts cut through the desert air, finding targets among the disorganized raiders. 2 more fell before they could establish defensive positions. Score roared in fury, his voice carrying across the dunes. "Who dares challenge the Cross Raiders?" Marcus triggered another charge, this one closer to Score's position. The raider leader was thrown back but recovered quickly, his scales apparently providing natural armor. "Fall back." Marcus called to Zara, and they retreated to their second position as planned. The raiders followed, now angry and focused, exactly what Marcus had hoped for. Angry enemies made mistakes. The battle continued for nearly 30 minutes, a deadly game of cat and mouse across the desert terrain. Marcus and Zara used every advantage, elevated positions, concealment, overlapping fields of fire. The raiders' numbers dwindled, their confidence shaken. Finally, Score called a retreat. 8 of his 20 raiders were dead or dying, and the rest were wounded. As his ship lifted off, the raider leader's voice boomed across their comm channel, "This isn't over, Widow. I'll return with more ships, more warriors. You and whatever fool fights beside you will die screaming." As the ships disappeared into the violet sky, Marcus and Zara collapsed behind their barricade, both breathing hard, both alive. Choosing family. That evening, after ensuring the perimeter was secure and all their defenses were reset, Marcus sat with Kale while the boy recovered from the fear of being in the safe room for hours. Zara was in the shower, washing away the grime and blood of battle. "You were very brave today," Marcus told the boy, who sat pressed against his side. "I was scared," Kale admitted. "Being brave doesn't mean not being scared. It means being scared and doing what needs to be done anyway. You stayed quiet in the safe room, followed all the protocols. That took courage." "Will they come back?" the boy asked quietly. Marcus wouldn't lie to him. "Probably. Eventually. But each time they do, we'll be ready. And each time, you'll be stronger, better prepared. Because you're teaching me." "Yes." Kale looked up at him with those ancient young silver eyes. "Marcus? Would you stay? Not just for a month. Forever?" The question hit Marcus like a physical blow. He had been so focused on the immediate, on training Kale, on surviving, on not thinking about what came after, that he hadn't allowed himself to consider the future. "Kale, Please," the boy pleaded. "You make Mom smile again. She's not always sad when you're here. And you make me feel safe, like Father did. You could be my new father." Marcus felt tears burning in his eyes for the first time in years. "Your father was a great man. I could never replace him. I don't want you to replace him, Kale said with the simple wisdom of children. I want you to be you. Can't someone have two fathers? One who I remember and one who teaches me now. Before Marcus could respond, Zara emerged from the back room, her hair still damp, wearing a simple robe. She had clearly heard the conversation. Kale, go to bed, she said gently. Marcus and I need to talk. The boy hugged Marcus tightly before retreating to his room. Once they were alone, Zara sat beside Marcus, close enough that their shoulders touched. My month is almost up, Marcus said quietly. Yes. I should probably move on. That was the agreement. Yes, Zara repeated, but her hand found his in the dim light. But what if we both want you to stay? Marcus turned to face her, seeing his own conflict reflected in her silver eyes. Zara, I'm damaged goods. I left my unit to die. I've been running for 2 years because I can't face staying anywhere, caring about anyone. What if I fail you? What if I fail Kale? What if you don't, she countered. Marcus, you've taught my son more in 3 weeks than I could have in years. You've shown him that men can be strong and gentle, that warriors can be teachers. You've helped him laugh again. And what about us? Marcus asked, voicing the question that had hung between them for weeks. This, whatever this is between us. Zara's bioluminescent markings began to glow softly, betraying her emotion. In my culture, we believe that life is too short for hesitation. Varen was my first love, my bonded mate. But he's gone. The heart is large enough for multiple loves, Marcus. I don't dishonor his memory by opening myself to you. She moved closer, her cool fingers tracing the line of his jaw. I see you, Marcus Drake. I see the ghosts you carry, the guilt that drives you. But I also see the good man beneath. The one who teaches a traumatized child with patience. The one who fought beside me today without hesitation. The one who makes me feel something other than grief for the first time in months. Marcus captured her hand, holding it against his face. I'm afraid, he admitted. Afraid of failing you both. Afraid of caring and losing again. So am I, Zara whispered. But perhaps we can be afraid together. The kiss, when it came, was gentle at first. An exploration rather than a demand. Her lips were cool and soft, tasting faintly of the wine they had shared earlier. Marcus pulled her closer, feeling the warmth of her body despite the coolness of her skin, feeling the rightness of this moment despite all his doubts. When they finally parted, both breathing heavily, Zara rested her forehead against his. Stay, she said simply. Not as an employee. Not as a temporary teacher. Stay as family. As my partner. As Kale's father. Marcus thought of Europa, of the faces of his dead unit. But for the first time in 2 years, those memories didn't overwhelm him with guilt. Instead, they reminded him of what he had learned from them, that life was precious, that love was worth fighting for, that second chances should never be wasted. I'll stay, he said, and felt the weight of 2 years of running finally lift from his shoulders. I'll stay and help you build something here. A home. A family. And when the time comes, when Kale is ready and you are ready, we'll seek the justice you deserve together. Zara's smile was radiant, her markings pulsing with joy. Together, she repeated, sealing the promise with another kiss. From his room, unnoticed by the 2 adults, Kale peeked through a crack in the door. For the first time since his father's death, the boy smiled without shadows. He had a family again. Different than before, perhaps, but no less real. As the twin moons of Theta, 7 rose over the desert, casting silver light across the crimson sands, 3 souls found what they had all been searching for, a reason to stop running, a purpose beyond mere survival, and a family forged not by blood but by choice and commitment. The raiders would return eventually. Other challenges would come. But they would face them together, and in that unity, they would find the strength to overcome anything. Marcus Drake had finally found his home.